when you just talk about practice. We sitting here, I'm supposed to be the franchise player, and we're in here talking about practice. I mean, listen, we talking about practice. Not a game, not a game, not a game. We talking about practice. Not a game. Not the game that I go out there and die for and play every game like it's my last. Not the game. We're talking about practice, man. I mean, how silly is that, man? We're talking about practice. I know I'm supposed to be there. I know I'm supposed to lead by example. I know that. And I'm not shoving it aside, you know, like it don't mean anything. I know it's important. I do. I honestly do. But we talking about practice, man. What are we talking about? Practice? We talking about practice, man. We talking about practice. We talking about practice. We ain't talking about the game. We talking about practice, man. When you come in the arena and you see me play, don't you?
Absolutely.
You see me give everything I got, right?
Absolutely.
But we talking about practice right now.
But it's an issue that you're
we talking about
you to raise.
Man, look, I hear you. It's funny to me too. I mean, it's strange to me too. But we talking about practice, man. We're not even talking about the game, the actual game, when it matters. We're talking about practice.
Now, is it possible, though, that where he's coming from, if you practice, not you would be better, but your teammates?
How the hell can I make my teammates better by practicing?
Oh, man. Shout out to the legend, AI3, Allen Iverson, the answer. This is the 22-year anniversary of that classic practice rant. Had my man in there talking about practice when, one, the Sixers had just been eliminated in the first round by the Boston Celtics. This coming off of them going to the NBA Finals the year before when AI was the MVP. Fast forward to 2002, they're bouncing the first round. It was already a injury-plagued season. Philly went from first seed in the East, 56-26, to the sixth seed, 43-39. Remind you, Iverson'S best friend was killed that summer of 2001, so he went through that whole season grieving the loss of his best friend. His team lost early, and if you remember that interview after the practice rant, he even said, my best friend's dead and we lost. And y'all got this man in here talking about practice. Yeah, so he went off. And they've used that rant against him for the remainder of his career. Even now, it's been a running gag for 22 years. I was just watching that commercial. I think it was, it's a commercial with AI, Steph Curry, and Kevin Hart when they're all there at the podium. And AI's like, we talking about practice? I mean, AI practice, that's forever going to be linked. Iverson in practice. But they made that an issue when it was a non-issue. The Sixers were coming off a devastating first round loss to the arch enemy Boston Celtics. AI went from being a league MVP, taking the team to the finals, to going out in the first round. And y'all got him in here talking about practice. Remind you, at that time too, it was the ongoing issue between Iverson and head coach Larry Brown. Larry Brown was contemplating not coming back. He would eventually leave a year later. They would spend one more season together. But that summer of 2002, it was, is AI going to be on the team next year? Or is Coach Brown going to be here next year? Then remember later that summer, the alleged gun incident with Iverson and whatever went on with him and his wife or whatever. That's none of our business. But of course the media also used that to villainize him. And it didn't help that it happened right after that practice rant. Maybe a couple of months later it happened. So that was a crazy off season for the answer. And a lot of people were saying at that press conference that he was drunk and he had the assumption that he was coming in to do a press conference to discuss whether him and Larry Brown would coexist going into the following season. But then they flipped it and started making it about practice and all of that. So, yeah, my man's went off. I mean, anybody would after your season ended like that, and you think you're having a press conference for one thing and they turn it into something else. So, you know what I mean? He had every right to go off, and the people that know that Iverson wasn't dismissing practice or whatever. It's just that they had him in there under a different assumption and used that practice shit against him. Now, I'm going to tell you, I was around that Sixers team during the early 2000s, 2000, 2001. And yeah, AI showed up to practice. Now, it had been times he didn't show up, but that's like a lot of stars. You know what I mean? The only stars you never really heard of skipping practices or having any issues with practice was Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, but their game and their resumes speak for themselves. So they loved practice. But other superstars have been known to miss practice or show up late or whatever. But because it was Iverson, because the league and the powers that be already didn't like him, they was going to use every little thing against him. They didn't like the hip-hop persona, how we ushered the hip-hop era into the NBA. They didn't like him for that. Shit he got into as a youth with the bowling alley incident or whatever. Legal troubles at his rookie season or whatever. So they used all of that against him. And AI was eventually blackballed from the league. I don't care what nobody says. Those that know. Because there's no way that he didn't get the farewell that the other NBA legends got. It was just disrespectful how they did him at the end. But back to that practice, Rant. I remember that day, May 7th, 2002. I was working at the airport. I had been working at the airport for a few months now, and that's all everybody was talking about was the press conference. Philly fans, we were already sick because, damn, we were in the finals just less than 12 months ago. Now our season's over already. And at that time, the Phillies weren't good. It was a few months before the football season started, so as sports fans of Philly, we really had nothing to look forward to for the next few months. So everybody was anticipating that press conference to see what was what. Then they start asking them about practice and all that, and AI went off into that day, into this day. That is still a classic. Still a classic to this day. But I remember watching it. I was down there because at the airport, I had connections all throughout the airport. So I dipped off somewhere in one of the offices where they had the TV set. Matter of fact, it was one of the employee lounges for the airlines. I'm in the employee lounge watching it on the TV, and I'm cracking up. After the interview, I called my cousin, and I'm like, yo, did you see the AI press conference? He was like, yeah, man, he went off. And for the next couple weeks, that's all that everybody was talking about in Philly. So even though the Sixers season was over, everybody was talking about that practice rant. You know, that AI practice are going to be forever joined together. You know what I mean? You can look at it one way and just laugh, and because we all know that was the media's way to further villainize the answer. And you know, casuals and these youngins that really don't know the game, they were like, oh, AI didn't practice. You'll see posts because the Sixers have done good in the organization. They don't really do good with a lot of things, But Dave did good with keeping Iverson affiliated with this new generation of Sixers. He's always at a lot of the games. He was just there for the Sixers this recent playoff against the Knicks. He was there when Embiid scored 50, joining Iverson, who did it 3 times, and Billy Cunningham as the only Sixers to score 50 points in a playoff game. But Dave did good at bringing him around. You know, he has some kind of role with the organization, some type of unofficial role. But people be like, oh, you should make him a coach. I'm like, I don't see AI as no coach. It doesn't have nothing to do with practice or whatever. I just, maybe an assistant. But you'll see posts like that, and the first thing people will say is, oh, he wouldn't want to practice, or the team wouldn't have no practices. Like, you know, he wasn't going off about practice. He was going off because he thought the press conference was going to be about his future with the team, and this is the crap they come up with. But anyway, you know, that's that. 22 years and counting. Shout out to the answer. The last Sixer to lead us to the NBA Finals. I said, I'm going to do another video on this. I did one last year called The Raw Deal of Allen Iverson, but I'm going to do another video soon. And it's going to be a further in-depth video, not just about his career with the Sixers, but his NBA career as a whole, how the league did him. You know what I mean? From his remaining years in Philly following that MVP season to his brief stints in Denver and Detroit and Memphis, whatever happened there, we're not even going to talk about that. Even his return to Philly, how the organization showed him little to no respect. So be on the lookout for that video. I'll probably be uploading that. I'm going to try to get to it maybe sometime this month. But I'm definitely going to do a further in-depth video of how the league just did him. Like, it wasn't right, because pound for pound, he's the GOAT. We are talking about barely 6 feet, 4-time scoring champ, MVP, 11-time All-Star. You know what I mean? Should have. It didn't have to end like that for him. You know what I mean? He got his statue. A lot of people were talking about the size of the statue, but for what I seen, the statue was the same as all of the other ones on Legends Walk. It might appear a little smaller because they have AI in a crotch crossover position, like he's kneeling down as if he's crossing over an opponent. Plus, Iverson is the shortest out of all the other Sixer legends that have statues on Legends Walk. But the organization, they finally honored them with a statue. You know what I mean? What's next in store for the answer? Hopefully, keep seeing them around the team and at the games. Is always great. You know what I mean? To see the answer, because he is Philly. You know what I mean? Even if he is from Virginia. You know what I mean? He's the most Philly athlete ever. You know what I mean? We didn't embrace them, 28 years and counting. Ever since we drafted him 96. He always embraced the city, gave it his all. Just a legend. But anyway, shout out to the answer. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned for more content. Hawk out.